So Lorraine Nelson,
Correct.
you're a great-granddaughter or daughter?
No, I'm actually a daughter of
someone
Ray
else?
Carroll, who was a supervising engineer
Yes.
of the southern approaches to the bridge.
And we were looking at this just earlier.
Yes, this is Dr. Bradfield,
Yes.
and I thought it was beautiful. This lady was said to be his stenographer,
Yes.
and here's my dad here.
And I'd like to begin, first of all, by acknowledging the Darramuragal people and the Darrag people of our First Nations, because they are the custodians, and still are the custodians, of the land on which we stand today. And I pay my respects to all of the elders, past and present. I also want to acknowledge the really strong connection there is between those people and the region of Bradfield itself. And we've only got to look at the names of some of the suburbs that you people come from. So Kalara, for example, always there. Warrawee, stop here. And Wurunga, home. And those people recognise that the month of March, which we're in now, during their times, was a time of burren. Garalung Maru, hot and dry. A little bit different to the sort of weather we've had in the last little while, and maybe it could be something to do with climate change, you never know. So we come here this afternoon, I think, to celebrate three different events. Obviously, along with the celebrations that are happening elsewhere, we're here to celebrate the 90th birthday of the big coat hanger. The Sydney Harbour Bridge that first opened on this day in 1932. And later, well, we'll be reenacting the cutting of the ribbon that day. And this time, there'll be no captain to group, there'll be no slashing swords and horses, and there certainly won't be any Premier Lang, although I think if he could be here, he would. We'll also, very much so, be celebrating the life, the work and the contribution of Dr. John Job Crew Bradfield. CMC, Master of Engineering, Doctor of Science Engineering, member of the Institute of Engineers of Australia. The man who imagined, then envisaged and then designed and supervised the construction of what we're celebrating today. That complex, that piece of infrastructure that absolutely fundamentally changed the demographic pattern of Sydney and still has that impact, and also the travel routes, the transport routes, the work routes, the leisure routes of everybody who was living in Sydney at that time. Thank you for inviting me to this celebration of the 90th anniversary of the opening of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I am, unfortunately, unable to attend. Grandfather would have been very proud on this day, as the bridge is as functional and relevant today as it was then, with the foresight that he had planned. At an event like this, I think it's worth remembering how happy and proud a Gordon resident he was. He and his family lived in Park Avenue for many decades, and he loved the proximity to the bush and gardens in the area. His own garden was profuse with over 50 different fruit trees, as well as many other plants, and he liked nothing better than spending any spare time he had walking around the neighbourhood streets enjoying the lovely gardens. He loved to make things grow. One columnist at the time said, and he did make things grow, like the bridge. On his behalf, I wish everyone a most enjoyable event. And thanks, Peter, for those words.
So the bridge went ahead from 1923 onwards. They finally closed the arch up top in 1930. You've often seen those classic pictures, and the accuracy. Remember, they didn't have computers. All that was done by hand. All the things that we went to university to learn how to do Now, younger people just push it into a computer and wait for the answer to come back. But in those days, they had to know what they were doing. Really, you know, the accuracy, think about it, that they had to do that. The bridge was finally opened, as you know, in 1932. So they didn't have the same safety procedures that we have today with OHS. 16 people died on the bridge, of them 2 fell off the bridge. But that doesn't include all the injuries and the deafness that occurred to all the workmen, especially those who were with the riveting. And that caused a lot of industrial deafness.
90 years ago today, a train left Wynyard on time and arrived in North Sydney on time. Spot on.
That was because of the watch, wasn't it?
Pardon? No, we'll come to that. And those who had a ticket, that's a photocopy of the original tickets that were issued for the first train to go across the Harbour Bridge. And the train was set off by this watch. That is the watch that sent the first train across the Harbour Bridge. And how this watch is not in railway hands anymore is when you retire, normally in that era you were given a watch. But because of this special occasion, the watch was not reallocated to other staff or went out for public tender for sale. It was saved up and purchased and given to Robert Philip Lowe for his retirement. As you probably guessed, how do I end up in this thing? The guard was Robert Philip Lowe. I am Jason Philip Lowe, his grandson.
Very well done. There are 3 words I think that you're going to hear me say a lot for the rest of the time that we're here. And they are imaginary, visionary and actionary. Most important, Bradfield moved from imagining to envisioning. The first step towards actually planning and creating, to bringing what is imagined into reality. The bridge from imagining to making to acting. With all his engineering knowledge, his background, his experience, he was able to see what he imagined might become reality. And thirdly, and probably most important, he turned the vision into strategic actions to bring that vision into reality. However, there is someone amongst us today that also demonstrates each of those qualities. She's imaginary, she's a visionary, and she does believe and knows that things should be better. And she knows how to bring people together to make those changes happen. And she's been practicing those skills in different ways for a long time. Like John Bradfield, she wants to bring people together to work for a much better world. However, her vision is not just focused on Bradfield, although over the last little while she's been doing a lot of talking with a lot of people in Bradfield to see what their vision is too. But it's also about not just New South Wales, but about Australia. It's characterised by things like action on climate change, on integrity, transparency and honesty in government, on homelessness, on education, on the quality of hospital aged care, on mental health, and also on a public independent media platform that's properly resourced. I ask you to give a very warm welcome to your independent candidate for Bradfield at the next election, your Bradfield Can Do Better independent candidate, Janine Kitson.
So I'd like to begin, and I'd like to acknowledge that I am meeting on Darramurrugal and Darug land, and I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. And one of the important things about today is our Sydney Harbour Bridge. And in 2000, the nation walked together over the Harbour Bridge in reconciliation. And that is important for us to continue with giving our First Nations people justice, truth, and treaty. Also, the Aboriginal flag will fly permanently now on our Sydney Harbour Bridge.
Time.
I want to thank David because David was one of my lecturers at Sydney University in probably the most important course that I did. The diploma that gave me the qualifications to do what I really wanted to do, which was to be a teacher. And in that year, I learned from aspiring lecturers like David about the importance of imagination, the importance of creativity, the importance of listening to students and really getting them to grow into their better selves. And that learning that I learned has carried with me all through my life. And now that I'm learning to be a politician, I'm trying to get back to that as well. I want to acknowledge Brendan. Now, Brendan is a local engineer, and I want to tell you that something that he didn't tell you. I met him about 20 years ago, and he was interested in designing wildlife-friendly bridges. Bridges that also allowed wildlife to cross them and marine life to go under them. And Jason, the man who helped me run a big event last year to celebrate the ABC, because in 2020 we had just recovered from the terrible summer black bushfires, where we knew that we had to thank the ABC because it saved lives. And we had a dinner and we invited the local member and we said, the ABC is so important. Don't cut its budget. We need it. Alas, that request was not listened to, and even the audacity to say that there had been no cuts when 250 staff at the ABC lost their jobs. But I want to say thank you to everyone here who has come today to celebrate community, neighbourhood, celebrating the best of what we've done. And today in Sydney, they're doing big celebrations that are on the television. But I'm telling you, the most important celebration for the 90th anniversary is here.
Yay. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're celebrating a visionary, Dr. John Bradfield, whom the electorate of Bradfield is named after. He was a brilliant engineer, a dedicated public servant. He was a team player that represented thousands of people working, like Brendan said, when we had no computers. It was a massive logistic, artistic, professional job that he had passion and persistence to make sure it was built. He was someone who believed in doing their best and doing a job properly. And that is what we need to do now, because there is so much shoddy work happening in the political sphere, and we know we can do better. Today is a significant day. 90 years ago, they had a ceremony where they cut the ribbon but it also invites us to think what we are going to do in the next 90 years that will impact on our children and our grandchildren's future. And it is a precarious future that hangs on a thread with the climate emergency that is happening much faster than anyone predicted. We are running out of time, and that is why this federal election is so critical. Bradfield is significant because it has a railway line from Asquith to Chatswood. And it was Bradfield's job, like Brendan explained, the electrification of that railway system. And that is really significant because he was a change maker, a generational change maker of transformation. And that is exactly what we have to do now. Massive transformation into renewable so that we can decarbonize our economy. So I finish now by saying I seek your support. I'm asking each and every one of you to walk with me over the metaphorical bridge that we all have to cross to get to a safer place. Let's make history in Bradfield. Let's do it for John Bradfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine, and everyone wishes you every success in our journey, both to and through the election. Okay, we're now going to reenact this important ceremony and ask Lorraine, will you come forward, please, to do the honours? You don't look too much like the group. You go for it.
1, 2, 3. Woo!
Hey, hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hip hip!
Hooray!
Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, dear Lonely Bridge! Happy birthday to you! Thank you, Lorraine. I would like to conclude today by some words from someone that follows on from what Janine's saying, who I believe is like a Bradfield for the 21st century. It is the most important book that has been written about what we do about climate change. The strategies that he talks about are here. We're not talking about green hydrogen, we're not talking about carbon capture, we're not talking about technology. It's all here, right now. And he lays it out simply and easy to read.
Authorised by Janine Kitson, Suite 1A, Level 2, 802 Pacific Highway, New South Wales, Gordon 2072.